guys, welcome back to my show. In today's episode, we have a really special guest here with us today. Her name is Gillian McDunn. Hi Gillian, how are you today?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
It's my pleasure. So could you please introduce yourself and talk about your latest book?
Oh, yeah. So my name is Gillian McDunn. I write middle grade books. In the last 3 years, I've had 4 books come out. My first book is Caterpillar Summer. And the most recent book that came out is called Honestly Elliot. And that is a book about a boy who is a 6th grader who loves to cook. He's really creative. He's a little disorganized. He has ADHD. And he's kind of trying to figure out how he's going to fit into his family because his dad and his stepmom are expecting a new baby. And he's also trying to find a way to kind of show his dad how important cooking is to him and that that's what he really wants to do for his career.
That sounds like an amazing book. I highly recommend you all to look at this book, read it, and enjoy Gillian's other books as well. So on to my next question for you, which is that, according to you, what are the common traps for aspiring writers?
So you're kind of wondering what are some tricky things that might happen when people are writing and they don't realize it's a trap because they're kind of getting stuck and as they're trying to create. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
So I think that one of the really important things to remember is that the first time you're getting an idea from your head onto the page, it's going to feel a lot more messy when you get it on the paper. When you have things in your head, they can kind of feel like they're just perfect, and it can be very disappointing and discouraging to take them from that special place in your head where everything is lovely and wonderful. And then when you try to put it on the page, it will kind of be icky for a little while. But it's really important to just tough it out through that stage so you can begin to improve it, because once you have it on the paper is when you're really going to be able to revise it, go back, edit it, and then make it better. So I guess I would just want to encourage people to not be derailed by that feeling of disappointment from the very first draft. It's okay for that not to be easy, and it's okay for that to not be perfect.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing thing you've said, because constantly authors, even established authors even now, they've learned over the years that when you're writing, you should probably write something before editing, because you cannot edit a blank page. I think this is a quote by Jodi Picoult, I think.
I think, yeah, I know I've heard some different comments on it. I think it's one of those universal truths that can be said in different ways, but yeah, I very much agree that you just have to kind of get it from that abstract place into the kind of concrete place, and even if it's a little messy, just to kind of tough it out.
Yeah. My next question is kind of fun to learn about, which is, what is your writing kryptonite? What is your writing weakness, basically?
I'm sorry, could you say it again?
What is your writing kryptonite?
Oh, Well, I think that the thing that is tough for me, well, there are a couple of things. One thing that helps me a lot is to have a good plan about where I'm going. I'm very much somebody who likes to have an outline. I like to spend a lot of time with my characters before I start to actually write the story part. I find that the story comes more naturally when I know a character really well. So I suppose that jumping in too quickly could be something that is difficult for me with my process, because I like to have a lot of notes and a lot of times to kind of think things through and plan things out before I start. I think that I can also feel really discouraged when I'm thinking of, a whole book or a problem that feels really big. Writers always work with an editor who will help them develop the story. And part of that process is getting a letter from your editor. My editor is really just brilliant and kind and wonderful and has really, really good ideas about my books. But sometimes when I get those letters, I can feel a little overwhelmed because the types of things that she's talking about are like big things, like we need this character to show more of their motivation, or we need this relationship to be a little bit more relatable. I think you're losing some readers here. They just think that this guy is mean and this person's nice, and we want to have it have a little more nuance to it. So really insightful, but sometimes it can be hard to know where to begin. And when you get a letter that's really dense and really full of a lot of good ideas, it can actually feel a little overwhelming. So I do a couple things. I usually read through the letter and then take a little break from that and let it sink in a little bit before I reread it again. And then I make notes. I'll usually kind of almost structure it like a to-do list, and maybe it will have some like sub bullet points underneath some of the bigger things so I can start to break it down. And then I always have a call with my editor, Mary Kate, after that letter has had a little time to sink in. And that really helps because that feels more like a conversation. And I feel like sometimes she might expand a little bit on an idea, or we might even bounce some ideas back and forth off each other. And I really enjoy that process. It feels really collaborative. So yeah, I guess those are the areas that can be pitfalls for me, and then the ways that I try to counter them.
I think your detailed answer is amazing, mainly because you told like how you kind of like make the overwhelming feeling you get when you read your letter, and how you take a break from it, which I think is an amazing idea, since like when you're editing as well, you need to take a break from your work so that you can get a fresh pair of eyes and not like kind of like biased with what you have, like, so that when you're like editing, you're not too attached to it and you're like reading with fresh pair of eyes.
Right, absolutely. I think that's very helpful for me with my process.
My next question to you is, if a book was made into a movie, who would be cast in it?
Oh, that's such a fun question, and I also have no idea. I guess there's a lot of different. I have quite a few different books at this point, so it depends on exactly what book it was. But I would hope that it would be kind of the kind of kid that feels like a regular kid, like the kid that you might know and go to school with or know from your neighborhood, because that's really the type of characters I try to write in my books. I want them to feel like people you could actually know. So I would hope that they would also have that feeling about them.
So I guess like from what you're saying, it seems like it would be a better idea for an open casting kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about how it works. I'm sure they kind of know. Who the movie makers would probably know all of that stuff better than I would. But that would just be my hope for what they would be looking for. Maybe an open call, or maybe just somebody who does have that quality of just being really relatable and real feeling.
Yeah, I like that answer as well, because like at this point, over time the child actors are probably already grown up. Like, for example, the actor who was there in Home Alone, the little kid Kevin, he grew up, so then they had to take a new Kevin.
Right.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to see, even though the movie is kind of nice. It kind of lost a spark, mainly because the main character, you're so used to seeing the main character. So in that sense, even if you like have like a dream casting for your book or anything, like how I do,
yeah,
you kind of like cannot exactly. You'll be lucky if you get the same dream cast you have always wanted, but it's really hard for that, especially if the people you chose are already like 18 years old by the time your book gets picked for being made into a movie.
Yeah, and I don't have any experience with the movie making side of things, but one thing that has been really neat is to kind of see how the process works when the publisher is choosing an illustrator and the cover is being developed, because that's a chance for somebody else to read my book and then kind of come up with their own idea of what the characters might look like or the positions they're in. And I really like that. That's kind of a collaborative thing in a way. You kind of, as a writer, give up a little of that control, right? It may not be exactly 100% like the person in my head, but usually I actually think it's kind of better. So I would hope to bring that spirit if there were, any kind of collaborative artistic project. I think you have to kind of allow your vision to mingle with somebody else's vision, and that is hopefully better than what was done separately, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a really good answer. Now for the final question to end off our fun conversation is, what would you tell your young writing self, and what would you change? Like, what would you tell your young writing self that would help you become a better writer, or maybe like in general, kind of?
Yeah, that is a great question. I kind of, when I was little, I wanted to write children's books. So that's been my dream my whole life. But there was a time that I started to doubt that as a path. Like, I just didn't really understand how to do it, and it seemed kind of hard, and it seemed like something that not a lot of people get to do, which all of that stuff is true. So I did a lot of other writing in my life. I did public relations writing, and I did technical writing, like computer stuff and grant writing, and I did a little like newspaper writing. I've done a lot of different kinds of writing. I don't regret any of that, though, because it really made me strengthen my writing muscles in different ways. And it obviously took me to where I am now. So I think imagining myself as a younger person, I hope that I could tell myself, to just keep trying, to keep reading and to keep writing. And that reminder that it's okay for it to be hard. It doesn't mean that you should stop because it's hard, that things that are hard are often worth doing. So I would say that to myself. I always tell people who are interested in reading and in writing at any age to continue to read and to continue to write and to make sure that you're finishing things, because it can be easy to get, really excited about a new shiny idea and then get to that hard part and then all of a sudden find this other shiny idea and want to start that. But the problem is that you learn a lot from toughing it out through those sticky places. And so if you're continuing to start a lot of different things, I don't think it's I think the ideal thing is to really work on finishing something, and the reminder that, there's problems that you've attempted to solve. Maybe it's not the perfect book, maybe it isn't the book that you'll be published with, but you'll learn so much from that process of creating a whole work that it's really worth doing.
Yeah, I think that's something like, since you're telling this to your younger writing self, I think all the aspiring writers and authors out there would also benefit from all of the things you've been saying throughout the episode, because those tiny tidbits or tiny pieces of advice or information any author who comes on here gives really helps them and inspires them to move forward in their writing career, so that they can make it and something they can do for the future.
Yeah, writing is one of those careers that you never get to I don't think, at least I am not there yet. I'm not at a point where I'm like, well, I know how to write books. It's now easy. I can now do it. I have to relearn a lot of things every time. I have to remind myself that it's supposed to be hard and that it's okay to be hard. And I think that's just the process of making something that's brand new in the world, that's never been there before. When you think about it, it's a really awesome thing for anybody to be able to do any kind of art, writing, any kind of product that didn't exist before. You create this cool thing. So not even, I think that's advice I have to continue to remind myself with my books. It's not just something for beginner writers.
Yeah, that's amazing. So that's the end of the episode. I loved having you on the show today, and I'm sure all our listeners have learned something new today and will use it in their daily life. So anyways, that's it for today. I'll see you all next time. Bye guys.